go ahead and start. So I'm going to begin by giving you the first code. So anybody that joins late is going to have to ask somebody else for the code or watch the video. So the first code is 356. Make sure you write that down. Once again, that is 356. Remember, after these Zoom meetings, you do the little quiz and you get a free 15 points. You just enter the 3 codes. It's real simple. We had an issue with the first one where it was locked, but this one is unlocked. So it should work right away. I want to spend a decent amount of the hour-long length of this meeting covering a lot of the stuff that's going to be on the first test, chapter test coming up. That's not this week, but that's next week. But we don't have another Zoom meeting between now and next week. So I'm going to do a little screen share because people are asking me about the bonus points, the sound bonus points, which has absolutely nothing to do with nutrition, but that's fine. I do that simply just to get you to navigate the website and look around and read some material, especially nutrition material, and find some of these bonus points. So I'm going to do, so keep your camcorders off, your microphones off for now. I'm going to show you, how you should actually do this. I want to make sure people can hear me though. Somebody unmute their microphone and tell me, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so that was good. Thank you. Okay, so here's a little screen share. I'm going to share the screen. Now I'm going to go to, hopefully you can see this right here. This is an announcement that I sent out. I'm one of the few people that knows how to put these little boxes around it. I think they're cool looking. Anyway, it's just something that I do. You have to use HTML programming to do that. It's not that hard, but it's a little tricky until you get used to it. So let's go. This is 162, section 3. Now you may be in 162 section 1 or section 2. It doesn't matter. They're all the same. The deadlines are the same. The tests are the same. You're in the same Zoom meeting. So there's no different whatsoever unless there's some tweak or something wrong with one of the sites. Hopefully not. So I'm going to show you how you can get. I've actually had one guy that figured out how to do this. He got all 24 bonus points without even listening to the sounds. Hey, you know what? That's fine with me. Congratulations. He's smart. He figured out how to do that. He figured out how to do that. So let's go to this class. This is the main page called the home page, which is the syllabus page. And if you go down through this, there's links here and there that have links to these little sound bites. Now, since I'm an older guy, these are older sound bites from various movies or cartoons. Some aren't that old. And even if you don't know it, then you can always type it in on the internet. I mean, they have apps for your cell phone that if you play the sound, it'll actually tell you where it's from. But if you just type it in on the internet, it'll tell you it's from this movie, it's this person speaking. This is not one. That's just my alma mater. It's the Texas A&M thing. But even on the home page, here's the first one. It says communication is the key to success. And this is just a little fun thing. It says name that movie, 1 point in the sound bonus quiz area here. You click here, it goes to the little quiz you take. But you don't want to do that yet until you hear the sound. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it because it's coming through my speaker to yours. So let's see. If somebody knows this, they can actually unmute and tell me what movie this is from. I'd be really surprised because this movie is literally 30 to 40 years old. So I'm going to click on this.
To communicate.
I'm going to play that one more time. Now that's hard to hear what he's saying. But you can listen to it over and over again. He's saying what we've got here is failure to communicate. Does anybody know what movie that is from? That's an old movie.
Cool Hand Luke.
Very good. Thank you. So you say Cool Hand Luke. So it's a free point for everybody here. So it says 1 point in the Soundest Bone quiz area here. Click here for whatever class you're in. I'm going to click here. Here's the sound bonus quiz. Now I'm in the instructor view, so it's a little bit different. So I'm going to go to preview. which is probably what you will see. And if I go down through here, you can say, oh, I don't know which one it is, but actually it happens to be the first one. It says, what movie is the sound from on the home page? Somebody said Cool Hand Luke, right there. Do you see that? You click that and you say, wow, but I haven't done the rest of them. That doesn't matter. You can take this quiz over and over, up to 20 times. So once you click Cool Hand Luke, you go down here and you go submit quiz, and you'll say, well, it's only worth 0.01 points. Well, what that does, if I go to grades, let's say, that's why I check these every now and then. I go to grades. I don't want everybody to see everybody else's grades. That's not good. But what it'll show, don't pay attention to this, it'll actually add 0.01 whatever here, and I actually will change that to a 1. I don't leave it on this because you can see other people's grades. And the reason I make it 0.01 because it actually is figured into part of the grade, and if somebody doesn't do it, I don't want it to count. I want it to count next to nothing because it's optional. So that 0.01 would be changed to 1, which means you got 1 bonus point. So they're all over the website here. I'm going to show you the 5.1. So I'm going to show you where it's at. I've sent that in a little message. I don't want to spend the whole time talking about bonus sound points. Somebody's going to watch this and go, what is this, a music class? Anyway, so if you go down through here, you have to navigate through all of this to find out. I believe it's in the vitamins document. This document right here, I'm going to boast a little bit. This took me literally 20 years to make, not all at once. I've worked on it a little bit at a time. And there's tons of information in this. If you click this right here, vitamin document, this document, if you want to print it out, is 120 pages. I wouldn't do that, but you can download it to your computer here and save it. But if you go down here, it talks about my history of doing this, etc. This statement, vitamins do not cure any disease except the disease caused by a deficiency of that vitamin. And we're going to talk about vitamins a little bit more tonight. Here you go. You click on any vitamin and it'll tell you the latest summarized information without getting into a lot of detail. The 13 recognized vitamins are all in red with a little asterisk. I don't know why that one's not bold. This is tricky to do in Canvas because you have to use what is called a tabs module, and you have to know HTML programming to do this. But I happen to know this. So let's just pick one you've never heard of. You said, I've never heard of vitamin PP. What is that? Click on it, and that will be the one that comes up. It's also synonymous for vitamin B3, sometimes abbreviated NAM, and it talks about it a little bit, a form of D3, what it is, etc. Now it also says the asterisk is not recognized as a vitamin, but just because some chemical isn't recognized as a vitamin doesn't mean your body doesn't need it. You have to decide for yourself. These people that decided these 13 vitamins, there's some things that are actually considered more important for your body than some of these 13. But that's the way they describe it, and that's the way they teach it, and that's the way people learn it, and so that's kind of the way I present it. But there's all kinds of stuff that people aren't aware of. For example, vitamin H. If you ask any doctor, any nutritionist, registered dietitian, what is vitamin H? They're going to say there is no vitamin H. Well, go to my document here and click vitamin H and see what it is. Vitamin H is also synonymous with biotin. And biotin, I believe, is B7. Yes, B7. But you can read a little bit more about why it's called vitamin H in some countries and why it's called vitamin. But this is just a simple summary. I didn't type 3 pages in here, etc. So rather than having to read through the whole thing, you can just pick one out. For example, you can say, okay, D3. That's the vitamin form of D that when you go to the grocery store you buy. If it says vitamin D and it doesn't say anything after it, it's D3. A lot of times it'll say D3. So click on D3. It's called cholecalciferol. There's a little picture of it, D3. This is the only source I trust. I'm not a spokesman or a sponsor for Life Extension, lef.org. I've got a link on the website to it, but this is the main type that you take over the counter. It's used in blood tests and things like that. It talks about, without getting in too much detail, what it is. But as we've mentioned, I believe at the last Zoom meeting, guys, I've spent 20, 30 years studying this stuff, and I came to realize a lot of the stuff I told was taught was wrong. Not intentionally, and by some pretty smart people. They were just a little bit ignorant about nutrition. They didn't know. And so you start researching stuff yourself, and you find out, wow, I've been given in some incorrect information. This vitamin D2, let's click on D2. Now you can go to Wikipedia, but they go into so much detail, make it so complicated that sometimes it's confusing. I've got some of this information from Wikipedia, some of it from WebMD, but I can tell you right now, I do not agree with everything WebMD says. It's just a website. It's maintained not necessarily by doctors, but it has a mystical name, WebMD, so it has MD, so people think, oh, it's the doctors, you got to believe it. But D2, you don't need to know this right now, but D2 is called ergocalciferol. I had to say this, don't be fooled. This is the prescription form of D. It is only half as effective as over-the-counter D3 is the kind many doctors prescribe. If you've ever been prescribed vitamin D, I bet you it's D2, ergocalciferol, and your insurance is paying for it, and they're paying through the nose for this. This is only half as effective as the kind you buy over the counter. So why do doctors prescribe this? Because this is what the blood tests measure. It measures D2 and D3. I just know, because I've gone through this with oncologists and cancer doctors that were prescribing D2 to every single patient, and they were buying it from certain people, and they were prescribing it when you could get it cheaper over the counter, and it was twice as effective. So why were they doing this? To hurt their patients? No. I'll let you figure out why they were doing it. And I think you might have some ideas there. But you can read up on it, kind of what it is a little bit. There might be somebody in this Zoom meeting that's taking this. Ask your doctor, why not just take D3? They probably won't know. They'll probably tell you because this is prescription form. Well, D2 is converted to D3 in your body at about a 50% efficiency rate. 50%. So it's only half as effective, and it's 10 times as expensive. It's converted in the liver. It's converted actually to a hormone, and then the kidney actually converts that to a hormone that your body recognizes. It's complicated. You have to know. There's papers written on how D2 actually works in the body, but I happen to know this. But there's nothing wrong with it either. It's just not as effective. Some of the stuff is just kind of interesting. Vitamin X. Who's ever heard of that? I'd never heard of that one. But there's Vitamin X for you. It's a band. It's a band from the Netherlands. So anybody asks you what Vitamin X is, say it's a name of a band. It really means X means unknown vitamin. But I believe I went to this to show you where the 5 points bonus one was. And I tend to forget myself. I expect you to go through all this, but if you want to look something up, look it up here. So guys, be sure if you have your camcorder microphone on, please turn the camcorders off and microphone off. Let's see, Veronica, I think you have yours on. So please turn your camcorder off. There we go, thank you. All right, so I'm going to show you, whoops, it's back on again. There we go. I'm not sure, it's under vitamin Q. I figured nobody would ever check vitamin Q, so they've never heard of it. So here's vitamin Q. Now remember, we're in the vitamins document. It's called CoQ10. I bet some people here have heard of CoQ10 because it's pretty close to a vitamin, sometimes called vitamin Q, but they didn't originally name it a vitamin. And they talk about, it's named after this guy, Quick. So that's how I got the name Q. But I believe the bonus, here it is, right here. I said I had no idea anybody would read down this far. So time for 2 point bonus. This may be just worth 2 instead of 5, I'm not sure. So I'm gonna play this sound. If anybody knows it, just blurt it out. If I can't even remember what it is because there's 24 of these throughout the website. So here we go. Does anybody know that? It was a little bit loud.
I can hear, sir.
Okay, we're going to do it one more time because I had it too loud. Okay, so hold on a second. Turn on the speaker volume. These different utilities always try to hijack everything you're doing on it. So one more time, here we go. Anybody know? Here's what he's saying. That's why you can listen to it over and over. He says, "Dirty pool, old man. I like it."
Oh, I heard about that. Maybe
That's
Dr.
from a
Evil.
movie. It's from a TV series that was made into a movie.
Is that the Dr. Evil?
Nope, not Dr. Evil. You've heard of the movie The Addams Family?
Yeah.
That's it. It's I can't remember his name. The man, dirty pool old man. He was talking about Fester. I think Fester was a bald-headed guy. So anyway, I kind of told you that one. So you say, you could type it in on the internet, say dirty pool old man, what movie, and it will tell you. So you say, okay, I know what it is. Click here. Go to the sound bonus quiz. Whatever class you're in, it should pull up. Now, once again, I'm in the instructor view, but so let's do a little preview. And I have no idea what question it is. You kind of have to scroll through this. That was the Addams Family. So I'm looking at the answers over here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it like that. You may have to scroll down through each one. It was in the vitamins one. Start at the bottom. Let's see. I'm looking for not the 8 components. It's not that one. You have to find the one.
I think it was 15, question number.
15? Yeah, but I didn't see the answer there because it wasn't any of these people. That was in the vitamins document. I may have to change this. I may have an error in this. If I do, I'll change it, and then you can go back and enter it in. Because there may be.
It's number 12.
Number 12? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, number 12.
Okay. Yes, thank you. So it's question 12. What movie is this sound from? I didn't say in the vitamins. I said don't choose Cool Hand Luke, so don't choose that. So that's the only other option because there's nothing from Star Trek or the Munsters. So that's it. You click Addams Family. And now if you've already started this bonus quiz, then be sure and re-enter the same answers you entered before, because otherwise it'll just think you just took one. So whatever you've answered before, go back and enter it. If you get it wrong, it's no big deal. You can change it the next time. And then click Submit Quiz, and then it'll give you, what was that in? 12 again? That's worth, oh, that was just worth 0.01. That was just 1 point. Where's the 5.1 from? In the vitamin document.
It's down there. It's down.
At the bottom, right?
Yes, sir.
Very good, thank you. Let me go back and check that, because I believe you're absolutely right, because that was a 5.1. It doesn't matter which of these classes I go to. So I'm gonna go back. I'm spending more time on this than I wanted, but that's okay. I want you to get these points. They make a difference sometimes. So here is a vitamin document. I think if you go to the very last one, why? No, it's not. I need to tweak that. So I need to I found an error in that. But that's how you do this. You kind of get the idea how to do this. You can say, okay, where are others at? Well, just browse around the website. You can go back to home and say, okay, go back to the home page, which you have access to. Say, nothing here, because that's just the welcome video. That's just a motivational video. Involves more than just what one eats. You can say, oh, I haven't looked at that document. Is there a little bonus thing in this? To be honest, I can't remember. I think there is. That was a link from the home page. Yes. Now look at this. Had to say this. I'm not surprised I am surprised you're actually reading this. So check this out. Bonus point below. Hover your mouse cursor over the sentence below. It says message me, but it's actually you enter it in the bonus quiz, and it covers over this, and there's a phrase right here. There's a little phrase that appears, and it'll tell you to enter that on the bonus quiz. I've got to change this too, because that actually shouldn't say message me. I don't think it does in the other classes. But browse around. You can find and under each module, as you complete each module, where it says congratulations, there's a bonus thing. So here's module 1. It's already done, but you can still enter it. It says module 2. It should be showing more than this. For some reason it's not. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's not after each module. It's after every 2 or 3 modules. It's after the 3rd module, and that's already ended, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Even though you may not have access to this, you can still enter it. So at the end of this module on September 6th, so you might write this down, since some people may not have done this. It says, way to go, you've completed this module, so now time for a bonus point. I don't even know what this one is. Let me play it. Anybody know?
I'm sorry, I can't hear anything.
Can you hear it? Okay, let me turn it up. It's too quiet for it. Yeah, I gotta turn it up because it's going through my speakers. So let me try it one more time. Anybody know? Saying, can you remind me what I pay you people for? Honestly, throw me a bone here.
Oh, Dr. Evil.
Yes, very good. So once you figure that out, I think you go here, a free bonus point, and it takes me to the bonus quiz. And so let's preview it. Yeah, I can't remember where I found that one at. That's not the home page. The answer is Dr. Evil, but that wasn't the home page. That was a link somewhere. Maybe it was here. Nutrition is more than just food section. That's it, right here. Everybody see that? Question 3. That's the answer on this one. So you can say, okay, I can enter that, and then enter the others you have. But anyway, you kind of get the idea. I found it, I'm glad you guys, somebody mentioned this. I found a couple of things I need to tweak, a couple of errors in this bonus quiz. But that's, anyway, those are just bonus points that you get. And as you get them, it'll say 0.01, 0.01, but I change them. You can get up to 24. And you can take the quiz. I'll give you a little hint on this. Like, how did this one guy get all 24 points all at once without knowing, without listening any of the sounds? I'd rather you not do this, but he just started guessing, because you can take it 20 times. He just clicked answers for each one and submitted it, and then it'll tell you which ones are right, and it'll tell you which ones are wrong and which ones are right. And there's only 5 choices for each one, and so eventually you could get the whole thing done just by doing that. I'm not going to go any more detail on that, because that kind of defeats the point of actually doing this. So that's enough on this. I'm going to talk a little bit about. Let me stop the screen share. I want to talk a little bit about the first test, which is not this week, it's next week. Remember the modules, I changed them to where they open up Sunday at midnight and they close Sunday at midnight. So like for this week, the assignments this week, they're not really due until Sunday at midnight. And then as soon as it hits Sunday at midnight, the module for the next week opens up until you have Sunday at midnight to complete all those. That keeps everything consistent. So, don't wait till the last day. So that way you can get things done early, things of that nature. Now, on the first test, I was actually looking at it a little bit. There's make sure that you know the 8 components of nutrition, which we went over in the first Zoom meeting. Just briefly, I'm going to review them once again. The 8 components of nutrition, parts of nutrition. Everything in nutrition is related to this. The first 3, and you don't have to know, hopefully you know this by memory, but once again, this is open book, open notes, open everything. You can use anything you want, just not another person. You can use all the resources you want, but these quizzes, they're 100 questions, and they're 100 minutes long. So you have 1 minute per question, but you won't even need a minute on some of the questions. You read it, you'll know the answer right away. Now, it's real important to work the study guides. Remember, I have those Zoom meetings open 3 to 5 every single day, even the weekends, where you can click on the link and see if other students are there. You can screen share. You can compare one study guide to another. You can work one, they can work one. You can get 4 or 5 people, 6 people, each one can work one, and then you can compare answers, etc. Now, when you're working these study guides, you'll be able to find most of the answers. Some of it you're going to say, wow, this is a little bit vague. I don't know what he's talking about. Well, I don't want to give you the exact question, but write down a few notes. You can say, it's probably this or probably that, so that when you take the test, if you've done the study guide, I can tell you, you will have at least 80 to 90% of the test already done. It's there, including the answers. You'll need your study guide. Now, you can use if you bought the online book, I think it's Macmillan, then you can use the digital book and look up stuff, or you can have a hard copy of the book and beside you and look at it that way. The problem with using the digital book while you're taking the test is you have to split the screen in half, because you're trying to look up stuff in the book online and you're taking the test online at the same time, unless you have 2 computers. But you can do that. You can split the screen, you can minimize it, hit that half button and kind of play with it a little bit and do that. People do that. Or sometimes they have a hard copy of the book. Now remember, you get 2 chances on each of these chapter tests. Let's say, oh man, that first one I didn't do too well. Well, it'll tell you what you got wrong. It won't tell you what the correct answer is until after the second attempt, but it will tell you what you got wrong. So you can say, oh, okay, at least I know this wasn't the right answer. So the next time I take it, I don't want to put that answer. Maybe you're deciding between a couple of answers. But I can assure you, if you have your study guides done as completely as you can, I don't think you have to worry about the tests. I really don't. There's no reason for not making a really decent grade on the tests if you have your study guides done. That's kind of what you should be working on, is those study guides. Those study guides get into more detail than I do in the Zoom meetings. I don't have time in the Zoom meetings to sit here and lecture about each particular vitamin and go over all the details. These are more general concepts of nutrition that I like to focus on than getting in too much detail. So know the 8 components of nutrition. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do a screen share and I'm going to show you that question. So here we go. Let's share the screen again. Let's go to quizzes. This is what I see, not what you would see. This is test number 1. I'm going to preview it. I think it will come up in the format that I needed, with the first question being, there it is. Okay, now this may not be what you see. It may be a little bit different, but this question is worth 10 points, not 1, so you're allowed more time on it. This question is going to look sort of like this, like what's a carbohydrate? And you're going to have these choices. Plant, not a food group. Well, it is a food group. They're unhealthy? No. It causes you to gain weight. You could argue to a little bit, but that's not the answer. Very low in vitamins, no, or fatty acids. Remember, a carbohydrate, we've been over this before, it's plant material. So you'll select plant material. And then proteins. You want to guess? I'm looking for 2 words here, what the answer is on proteins. Anybody know? Somebody tell me, blurt it out. Proteins are what?
Amino acids.
Very good. So that'll be a choice here. Human body has 20. No. Here you go. Amino acids. There are 20 used, but there's only 9 that are essential. So amino acids. So what you need to know are the, like I said, are the 8 components of nutrition: carbohydrates, fats, proteins. Fats are fatty acids. Water, H2O. Fiber, anything you eat, you don't digest. Vitamins, they're probably coenzymes, I'm not sure. Oh, well, that's not a choice here. If you can read this, which of these answers do you think it is? Which of these? This one. There are 13. Remember, we mentioned that. But these are what you need to know. The 8 components of nutrition. These 3 are the food groups. These other 5, and you can use your notes, remember. And remember, we talked about these 3 things before. It's even on the home page. Hormesis, once again, is stress that promotes strength. Exercise is hormesis. It gets your heart rate up. It stresses you. It causes you to have a heart attack. So you shouldn't do it. No, it's stress, but it makes you stronger. It's stress that makes you stronger, strengthens you. Getting sick is hormesis. Getting COVID-19 is actually hormesis. I'm not recommending that you do that, because if you have some health problems or something going on, you could die. Most people don't, but what it does, it builds up your immune system that kind of protects you from getting it again. They found 1 or 2 people that got it again. I don't want to spend a lot of time going into detail on that, but it's kind of what a flu shot is. Flu shot is hormesis. It gives you a mild strain of the flu that protects you from the powerful strain. It gives you, like I said, the flu to a degree. Apoptosis, programmed cell death. Autophagy means self-eating. It's when the cell recycles. It doesn't eat itself, but it recycles its waste products. This happens when the glucose is low, blood sugar is low. This happens when blood sugar is low. Very beneficial things to have happen, especially if you watch a little documentary on rebuilding the immune system with fasting. But that's, if you know that, that's worth 10 points. That should be a free 10 points. This will come up on everybody's test. Now, the rest of the questions, even though there are 100 questions, that's one of them. Actually, because that's 1, there's only 90 after that. I think, no, there's 99, so they're worth like 0.980. I'm not sure the exact number, but it adds up to 100. It adds up to 200 points. But they're selected from a test bank, so they'll be different. If you take the test twice, and most people do, the second time you'll take it, you say, wow, these are different questions. Well, that's because they're randomly selected from the test bank, but not this question. This will be on everybody's test. It's really, I don't think it's anything to worry about. I think if you have your study guides and you know these 8 components of nutrition, I don't think you'll have any problem with this whatsoever. I don't even think you'll need to take it twice, although you can if you want to. I've had people make like a 88 and they go, oh no, I want a 90 something, and they take it again. If you do worse the second time, it doesn't matter. It records the highest of your 2 scores. So I wouldn't worry about that actually too much. Because the first test, and we've talked about this a little bit, I want to spend a little bit more time talking about vitamins. You know, remember there's 8 components of nutrition. Once again, fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. And I know we've been over this before, but fats, carbohydrates, and proteins are the food groups. What is really amazing to me, I'm doing a lot of screen sharing, but I'm going to share it with you again to show you how you can't always believe everything you hear or read. You should question everything. You should question even what I say. That's fine. I don't mind people doing that at all. But just because somebody is a doctor, an MD, a registered dietitian, or taught nutrition, doesn't mean they know. It means they might know, are supposed to know. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I'm going to give you an example here. So I believe this little document I did right here. I'm not a big Albert Einstein fan, but his quotes were so accurate. This is completely true. This will be true your whole life. A man should look for what is and not for what he thinks it should be. In other words, a lot of people look for whatever they want it to be or what they think the answer is. Sometimes the answer isn't always what you think it is. And so you got to keep an open mind. And this document, if you haven't read this document, spend a little bit of time reading it because I think it's important. It says do not go by their title or position of authority. I'm in a position of authority because I'm your teacher. That doesn't mean you should just automatically believe me. You should listen to what I say and kind of compare it to what you know or what is actually out there. I probably shouldn't have put this on here, but I have to be honest. I said in this document, to be honest, here, every time it says here, it's a link to somewhere. Here is what I sometimes think about people that give advice and don't have a clue as to what they're talking about. This is especially true in nutrition. Some people may have clicked on this. It's just a little fun thing. You get this. I thought it was, it's not insulting anybody. It's just what I think about people that say, not that he's dumb, he's telling somebody else that they are. You got to question things, especially when it comes to your health. You should not believe somebody just because they say I'm a doctor, I'm a registered dietitian. I've taught nutrition in college for years, which I have. Doesn't mean you should believe me though. I have written a book. I'm an expert, have a degree, even a PhD. I won the Nobel Prize. I'm your teacher. These are not reasons for believing somebody. It means they are supposed to know. It does not mean they actually know. They may or they may not know. And there's no such thing as an expert. An expert means you know everything there is to know. I'm not an expert. I feel like I know a lot about nutrition, but people are constantly being introduced on TVs as experts. This is an expert on the coronavirus. This is an expert on this. This is an expert on that. They failed to understand that an expert means you know everything there is. If you knew everything there is, you could solve whatever problem they're actually talking about. But you need to understand that apoptosis, autophagy, and hormesis. These three terms, to understand nutrition, you have to understand what these mean and how do they affect what's going on in your body. It's without understanding that, the people are just, they'll believe anything, they'll fall for anything. And I can back all this up by going into detail as to what happens at the cellular level. Another little Einstein quote: the height of stupidity is most clearly demonstrated by the individual who ridicules something he knows nothing about. I absolutely agree with that because I've run into that a zillion times when it comes to nutrition by people that you would think would know. Some do. Unfortunately, most do not. Now, that doesn't mean they're stupid. What it means is they're ignorant about nutrition. But I wouldn't call somebody ignorant because it sounds like you're calling them stupid. Ignorant just means you don't know. They may be very smart, but they don't know about nutrition at the cellular level as to what's going on in the body. Most doctors do not know that. They understand anatomically what's going on. Probably more than I do, although I feel like I know that area about the stomach and the intestines and do this and don't do that and eat this and don't eat that. And all of that's, like what you would learn in an 8th grade nutrition class. That's all simple, but it's so much more complicated than that. And we've been over this before, but when they say things like eat this particular food, oops. Did I lose you guys? No, here we are. When they say eat this particular food or don't eat this particular food, that's such a superficial level. And the advice may be good, but it doesn't really make sense. Like, don't eat this food, this is bad. Well, first of all, you can't determine whether a food is good or bad by analyzing the food. You have to analyze yourself first. If your glucose level is low when you haven't eaten in a while, then no food is bad for you. You can't eat cheeseburgers and fries your whole life. because you need other things. But if you haven't eaten for a day and that's the meal you have, it's not going to do anything bad for you at all. If your glucose level is normal and you eat a couple of apples and an orange, then that food is technically bad for you because it raises your blood sugar level or your glucose level, and that'll end up being stored in fat cells, raises blood pressure, heart rate a little bit. Doesn't mean it's really bad for you, but what determines whether a food is good or bad for you? Number one is, what is your blood sugar level when you ate the food? Blood sugar and blood glucose level mean the same thing. The lower it is, not dangerously low, not hypoglycemic, then it's okay to eat any food. It's not going to hurt you. But then over time, you need a variety of different foods. The old school thinking is RDA. When people talk about RDA, that's old school. That means recommended daily allowance. How much do I need per day? The correct thinking in nutrition is DRI, dietary reference intake. How much do I need over time? You don't need food every single day, as a matter of fact. You don't need vitamin A every day or vitamin D. You need a certain amount over time. You could go months without no vitamin A, with no vitamin A, and be fine. But if you don't have enough over time, you eventually go blind. But it'd take years for that to actually happen. So you need a certain amount over time. You don't have to worry about getting it on a daily basis. We've mentioned this before. I've used the analogy of a car. You don't have to put oil in it every day. You don't have to put brake fluid in every day, or whatever transmission fluid. You need to put a certain amount in over time. Maybe gas every day, but not even that unless you've driven it around a lot. And our bodies work the same way. You need a certain amount over time. And the longer of a time period you go between having these nutrients / food, the better it is for you, because your cells are more sensitive to the food. The receptors respond to it better. And studies are bearing this out. They just released a particular study on, I believe it was A. I'd have to double check because I just glanced through the study. If you don't have vitamin A for a while, that when you do have vitamin A, your body responds to it better. The cells that need it, especially photoreceptive cells in the eye, that they respond better. They take it in better. You don't become desensitized to it. When you constantly take something in, no matter what it is in your bloodstream, a vitamin, a mineral, a food, a drug, you kind of become desensitized to it, and your body doesn't respond to it as well. Like if you take migraine pills all the time, and pretty soon they don't work, or pain pills, and you need more and more. That's just the way the body works. Well, nutrients work the same way. Is that just if you keep it just constant all the time, the body doesn't respond as well. Everything in your body, everything, once again, needs to oscillate. Remember, oscillate means go up and down. Heart rate oscillates. It goes up and down. Blood pressure oscillates, 120 to 80, or more or less if you're exercising. Everything oscillates. Arteries oscillate. When the heart beats, they expand and they contract. That oscillation keeps them healthy. Nutrition needs to oscillate also. Your hormone levels oscillate. You can tell when they're a little high sometimes or a little bit low. It's necessary for them to function. So why in the world would it not be the same for nutrition? It is. Blood sugar or blood glucose level needs to oscillate, which means more time between meals. More time, not less time. Not 5-6 little meals a day. That's not enough oscillation. Even if you eat healthy and don't overeat, that's not enough time between meals. Keep this in mind. The more time you have between meals, the more effective the food and nutrients and vitamins and minerals that you consume the more effective they will be. Now you'll find some people that'll just argue and say that doesn't make sense, and how does that work? Well, that has to do with oscillation. Insulin is the same way. Insulin, diabetics, which is defined as, and we've talked about this already, so I'm going to spend a lot of time going into this. Diabetes is defined as high blood sugar or blood glucose. So you eat, it's changed to glucose depending on what you eat. Some raise blood sugar fairly quickly. So it goes up The pancreas secretes insulin to lower it down because it tells cells take in the glucose. But that constant release of insulin by the pancreas damages the insulin receptors on the cell. They become burned out. They don't respond to insulin as much. So you need more and more and more. Well, the damaged insulin receptors, but why are they damaged? Because they're constantly exposed to insulin, so they don't work as well. Well, how do you rectify that? You lower the insulin level. How do you lower the insulin level? Don't eat. You have time between meals so those damaged receptors can repair themselves, so that when you do eat and insulin is released, then the receptors are healthy and they respond to the insulin. They take the glucose in. Blood sugar level goes down to normal. And that's very effective, but you got to give the body a break from these hormones. And even though the hormone insulin is very necessary, it's damaging. You need it. Without it, you will die. But the way they treat diabetics now, a lot of doctors, not all of them, but a lot of them that instantly go to give insulin to somebody, that's very damaging, because you're using a therapy to treat the disease that actually caused the disease. And I've used this example before, and I stand by this wholeheartedly. Using insulin to treat diabetes is like using alcohol to treat alcoholics. It only treats the symptoms. It makes the disease worse. It will lower blood sugar level. It works. You'll feel better, you'll function better, but it further damages the insulin receptors. So you'll need more and more and more. It's a bad way to go. I would try anything else before I would try insulin. But there are people that are on it. Now, I'm not saying, once again, you take insulin, just come off of it because I said to do that. Get the advice from your doctor, but become informed. If you or a family member is taking it, become informed about the long-term results of taking insulin. I think it will scare you. I think there's other alternatives that you should actually consider besides insulin. Now, on vitamins, I want to spend let me give you the second code. So if you got a pen or pencil, write this down. The second code is 362. 362. Okay, and I'll give you the third code here in a little bit. Got about maybe 15 more minutes to go. On vitamins, I don't know if we're into that area yet. When you watch the video called Vitamania, it's the best video I've ever seen that talks about vitamins, what they are, how they're actually manufactured, what they actually do, etc. But I want to start by saying, and I've mentioned this earlier in this meeting, but vitamins do not cure, keep this in mind, vitamins do not cure any disease except a disease caused by a deficiency of that particular vitamin. If you have scurvy, take vitamin C. If you have the disease called beriberi, I believe that's vitamin B1 deficiency. If you have rickets, which is vitamin D, actually D3 deficiency, and it's called rickets in children, then take D3. But just pellagra is another horrendous disease, is caused by a deficiency of niacin, which is one of the B vitamins. I believe it's vitamin B3. It used to be horrible years ago, but it's really rare now. So they don't cure anything other than lack of that vitamin. So the question is, does taking extra do anything? Most of the time, no. But it usually doesn't do anything harmful either, unless you take massive doses of something. Now, I'm not going to say it doesn't help a little bit for some people every now and then, because everybody's different, and the way they interact in the body might be a little bit different. I think if you think it makes a difference, it's probably more of a placebo. Placebo doesn't mean it's not working. It simply means you think it works, and therefore you actually feel better because you think you feel better. And thinking you feel better may actually make you feel better. So it's actually working, in a roundabout sort of way. But I haven't seen any evidence that taking extra of any of them is harmful. Like I said, unless you take massive amounts. If you believe in D3 and you take 10 D3 pills a day, depending on how many milligrams, that's too many. over time, you're going to have some calcium buildup because D3 and calcium work together, and that could lead to some hardening of the arteries and some bony tissue buildup and all kinds of things. So, but if you took one D3 pill a day because your doctor said, even though it's a fat-soluble vitamin, I don't think it would be harmful. Even a couple a day, I don't think it would be harmful. I question whether it actually does anything, because just because you take it doesn't mean it's actually in you. I know that sounds strange to say that, but I want you to think of it this way. Let's say I took some extra vitamin A because I read that it's good for your eyes, and it is to a degree. It's complicated how it works, but so I took some in. So I say I took it in pill form. Well, where does it actually go? It goes to my stomach, right? The stomach has digestive juices that break the pill down or whatever, and it ends up getting into the small intestine. The small intestine is where most everything, not everything, but where most everything is absorbed into the bloodstream. So it's not really in you. It's in your stomach. It's not doing anything. Maybe give you a stomach ache. Gets in your small intestine, still not doing anything, but it's in you. Gets in your bloodstream, believe it or not, it's still not in you. You can measure it in the bloodstream, but it doesn't mean it's doing anything. It's just in your bloodstream. Alcohol in your bloodstream doesn't really mean anything. That's what they use for tests. They can do a blood test and determine the amount of alcohol you have in you, but it's only when it gets inside the cell. If it's in your bloodstream, it's going to get inside the cell. You know, that's how they can measure it, but not inside of a cell, but they measure it in your bloodstream. But going back and talking about vitamin D, it gets in your bloodstream, circulates around. Bloodstream, the arteries get smaller and smaller until you have capillaries, very small. You have enough capillaries in your body to wrap around the world 8 times. That's incredible. It's like 200,000 miles of capillaries. They're so incredibly small, but they're so incredibly small that they're porous, that things can go in and out. Even though they look solid, they're porous, that nutrients can go in and things can go in and out because you have cells out here. And capillaries supply those cells with oxygen and vitamin A and vitamin D. So the vitamin D, which is converted by that time to a particular hormone, is called calcifitriol. Don't worry about it. But that secretes, that gets out of the capillaries and surrounds the cell. It's still not in you, not doing anything. When the cell takes in or responds to that hormone, and in the case of vitamin D3, that hormone tells the body to absorb more calcium, then it's actually doing something. But in reality, it's not doing anything until it gets inside of the cell. We can overeat. Our cells are smart. They don't overeat. It can kill them. They will not overeat. Now, if you overwhelm them with so much of something, they can take in too much of something even though they're not supposed to. That's why taking too much, way too much, can cause problems. But if you overeat and say your blood glucose level goes up, and glucose is what the cell needs for energy. All cells function off glucose. They can function off other things, but they prefer glucose. So we overeat. Glucose level goes up, gets in the bloodstream, gets out through the capillary, surrounds the cell. That cell says, am I hungry or am I not hungry? If that cell's not hungry, it won't take the glucose in. It will, even though the insulin receptors work and there's insulin telling the cell, take the glucose in, it still will reject the glucose. Doesn't mean the insulin receptors are defective. The cell's smart. So the glucose stays in the bloodstream because the cell doesn't overeat. If it overeats, it expands, and it can't expand. Only fat cells can expand. Overeating a cell, if a cell overeats, it'll kill it. So it rejects it. So it leaves it in your bloodstream. So all your cells are rejecting this glucose, and that makes for a high glucose level or blood sugar level. So what does your body do? The glucose circulates around, ends up in the liver. The liver converts it to fat in the form of fatty acids. They circulate around. Cells reject the fatty acids, but fat cells can take in fatty acids. Fat cells are under the skin. They can expand. So your body lowers its glucose level by putting it in fat cells in the form of fat. So it really didn't do anything for you. It just ended up in fat cells because cells refuse to overeat. They're very smart. They know exactly what to do and how to do it. We just kind of have to get out of the way as humans and allow them to do what they're supposed to do. If you watch the video on rebuilding the immune system with fasting, that's a few years old, but that study and studies in that area have been verified over and over. And most people know this. A lot of doctors know this, but they dismiss it. And, oh, well, yeah, it makes a little difference. In my opinion, it makes a huge difference. But it's extremely hard to do unless you're used to doing it. Not eating seems like punishment. It seems like, oh, starvation. It's not starvation, it's restriction. And it's not really restriction in the long run because, say you don't eat for a day, the next day you could eat a lot more. You probably wouldn't eat twice as much, but you could eat a lot more. That allows for oscillation in the glucose level. What happens if you watch that video, when they study what happens in the body, white blood cell count goes down because your body's craving energy. And it actually uses defective cells as energy. It actually uses viruses and bacteria. It uses them as energy. And that's good because it's kind of like emptying the wastebasket. And your white blood cell count will go down, but white blood cells are made in bone marrow. The bones make new white blood cells. They make red blood cells, and your body's making 2 million red blood cells per second. So the red blood cells that are old and defective, they're sort of washed out of the body and new ones are made. This happens with immune cells too. So temporarily, you're worse off. That's called hormesis. That's stress, but it causes strength in the long run because your immune system will rebuild itself. So the bone marrow makes new cells. So you're not having these old ones circulating around kind of barely hanging on that are halfway functioning and not doing what they're supposed to do. I'm really surprised with all the coronavirus going around. And they talk about the immune system. It's all about the immune system. People with strong immune systems don't have to worry about getting it. Even if they got it, they may have no symptoms, may not even be aware of it. Doesn't mean they can't spread it. I'm not saying that. But that's about the immune system. And if they're so concerned about the immune system, and this happens even with older adults, then fast for a day or two or three. Rebuild your immune system so you have protection when a virus, or mainly a virus, but bacteria, some infection, some pathogen. Pathogen is anything that causes a disease or a problem, enters your body, so your immune system is strong and actually waiting on it. This makes a huge difference, but it is so, even though I know how healthy it is, it's hard for me to do, because I'll even say, oh, today I'm going to fast today and not eat. And starting about 4 o'clock, I'm like, oh gosh, I just ate a cheeseburger and I teach nutrition. Well, it happens. But I still try to have as much time between the meals as I can. There is no physiological, biological, maybe a psychological, but there's no other basis for having 3 meals a day. There's no reason for that. It's made up. Somebody somewhere just said we need to do that. There's nothing wrong with doing it. You can be healthy doing it, but you would not be near as healthy as you would be eating the same number of calories, but in less meals. Combine them to 2, combine them to 1, go to every other day. You still need the proper amount of calories over time and nutrients. I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing the fact that fruits and vegetables, carbohydrates, which are basically plant food, is probably healthier for you than cheese and meat and things of this nature. This is all true. I'm talking about in the big picture of kind of the way, the proper way I think that eating should be handled. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap this up in just a few more minutes, but I didn't get into a lot of detail on vitamins, but on vitamins, the 2 categories, if you're this is the way the books do it. If you're classifying vitamins, because there's 13 recognized vitamins, they break them down usually into 2 categories. And they do this with a lot of things. They talk about, because we're about 60 to 70% water, they'll talk about water soluble are not water soluble. They do this with vitamins, they do this with fiber, they do it with a lot of things. Basically, think of it like this. You have a glass of water and you put a vitamin in it, stir it around. Does it dissolve? If it does, it's water soluble. We're mainly water, so we can handle water soluble vitamins, even taking a lot, usually with no problem. Maybe a stomach ache, something like that. Certain B vitamins can be toxic, but you would have to take a lot. But the water soluble vitamins are B and C, and there's a whole bunch of B vitamins. And then C is water soluble. Now it's more complicated than that, but that's what the books say. There's a couple of B vitamins that tend to be more fat soluble than water soluble. But for now, think of B and C. You put them in water, stir it around, they dissolve. The fat soluble vitamins, which we've touched on, are A, D, E, and K. You have to be careful about taking extra A, D, E, and K because they don't dissolve in water. They're like oil. You put them in water, stir it around, so it just floats around like a blob. Well, you need enzymes and other things in your body to help break these fat-soluble vitamins down. So if you take a whole bunch of D, it doesn't just dissolve right away and get into your system. It takes a little bit of work by your body to break it down. So that's why you have to be careful about taking a whole lot of extra of A, D, E, and K. Oddly enough, the most toxic of those fat-soluble vitamins is D. And D is the one people take the most of. Now, like I said, a little bit extra, no problem. A lot extra is going to cause some problems. It's just odd that the ones that are most toxic is the one people take the most of, because that's what doctors promote. Now, I'm not saying it's harmful for you, but be careful about taking too much. Oddly enough, on minerals, test 2 gets more into minerals. Minerals are part of the earth. We're not made out of vitamins, we're made out of minerals. You're missing some iron, you're going to have some oxygen problems and some other things. Iron does a lot of things in the body, oxygen transport, and it's part of hemoglobin. So you're missing some calcium, you're missing some bone, you're missing phosphorus, part of your teeth, part of your bone. So it's more serious to be deficient in a mineral than it is a vitamin. We're not made out of vitamin A. We need it, but we're not made out of it. But on minerals, the mineral that people take the most of is iron. That's the one people always say, oh, take iron. You feel tired, you're lethargic, take iron. Yet of all the minerals, the most toxic mineral that you take extra of is iron. It just seems odd to me. It's the most toxic, you take the most of it. Vitamins, D is the most toxic, that's the one they promote the most. I've read a lot of research on iron. You couldn't pay me enough money to take iron. No way. Even if you do a blood test in iron, 24 hours, they only do 12-hour fasting blood tests. They tell you you're low in iron. They tell you to take iron, eat spinach, or eat certain meat, especially liver. You can die from iron toxicity. When you watch a video on Vitamania, they'll actually point that out. There's a disease called hemochromatosis, which is too much iron in the bloodstream. It's very deadly. It's an inherited thing. It's not caused by taking it, but the body doesn't use it properly. Be very careful about taking iron. If you go to your doctor, it's always with women. I don't know why they do this with women. Oh, you're tired, it's your hormones, you don't have enough iron. And they'll just tell them to take it without even doing a blood test. Once again, the problem with the blood test, I can tell you right now, if you've had this done, what they did, they tell you to fast for 12 hours. If you don't eat for 12 hours, do not call it a fast. That is not fasting. That's just not eating for 12 hours. Fasting to me is at least a day, not 12 hours. Otherwise, you'd say, I fast every single night when I sleep. No, you just don't eat during that time. Into the bloodstream. I believe it's a series of 6 to raise your iron level. I'm just giving you my opinion. I'm not a medical doctor, but I have a brain and I can think. I know people have done this and I've talked to them. They said they actually felt worse after doing that rather than better. Even though their iron levels were higher in the bloodstream, remember, just because it's in the bloodstream doesn't mean it's actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's only in the bloodstream. There could be many other things that are going on there. You're mimicking the disease hemochromatosis when you take extra iron. So be real careful about taking extra iron if you know somebody that's on it. A little bit extra can be very toxic for the body. And if you read up on it, it kind of scares you a little bit. One particular study, because I asked my own personal physician this, who's very smart, but she didn't know. She had a lot of women that tested low in iron, taking iron or doing the iron infusions. I said, are you aware of that study out of Duke? I believe it's Duke. I'd have to double check this. But it was done on, the numbers escape me because I've read quite a few of these, but I think it was around 800 women that tested low in iron with a 12-hour fast. And they had this same group, I think they set it up in another study, but they had, instead of doing a 12-hour fast, they had them do a 24-hour fast. Well, these 800 women that all tested low after 12 hours, when they fasted for 24 hours, their iron levels went back to normal in something like 70 to 80% of the cases. Almost the vast majority of the cases, it went back to normal. Yet they were having them take iron pills and do iron infusions. It was never low. It was only temporarily low. And so when I quizzed my doctor, she said, well, that's impossible, because if it's low after 12 hours, it'll be lower, even lower after 24. That's incorrect. Iron is stored in your bones. And when your iron level gets down to a certain point, signals are sent to your bones to release iron into the bloodstream. That may take 24 hours. So it's temporarily low. You don't take any extra iron. Your body starts raising it back up without doing anything extra. And it's going to do that anyway. So now you're taking extra and your body's raising it up. And so now it actually becomes too high. This is called, like I mentioned before, oscillation. Things go up, things go down, including your iron level. Trying to keep it normal all the time is not the way the body works. It just doesn't work that way. So be real careful about these 12-hour blood tests for everything. They used to do 24, but very few people go the whole day and don't eat. So they changed it to 12. But it's amazing what the body can do when it's allowed to. For example, glucose level. If you're not used to fasting, after a day of not eating, your glucose level will drop. It could get so low, you're not going to die, but it could get so low, you feel lightheaded, you have a headache, you feel like you're going to pass out. You actually could pass out. Be careful, it's very scary. You're not going to die. When you do, lie on the couch, start recovering, glucose level doesn't stay low, it starts going up. Well, how does that happen? Well, it takes a while for fat cells to release fat, to go back to the liver, to be converted to glucose, to raise blood glucose level. Because when it stays low for a significant period of time, your body sends signals saying, I need glucose. Because if it goes to zero, you die in 6 minutes. Body won't let that happen. So it gets low, that might take a day. Signals are sent to fat cells, release fatty acids into the bloodstream. They go to the liver. The liver converts them to glucose, puts it back in the bloodstream. Glucose level starts going up. Now your cells have food, and your fat cells shrink, which means you're losing weight everywhere. Because hormesis, stress. You stress the body with low blood glucose, and that forced fat cells to release fatty acids, which raises glucose level. Once again, that's oscillation. And that's the way the body's designed to work. When I taught anatomy and physiology, we went over this in detail with each organ, how this process keeps your stomach, your intestine, your pancreas, your gallbladder, your heart, your arteries, all of these are kept much healthier with this sort of oscillation pattern in the body. Last thing on vitamins, make sure you know, like I said, fat soluble. Remember the word ADEK. Sounds like ADEK. Water soluble, B, and C. And there's a whole bunch of B vitamins. And remember, vitamins were named by people that didn't know much about them back then. So we're kind of stuck with the names now. And they use the alphabet because they didn't have a clue. They knew the alphabet, so that's how they named them. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I mean, all the way up to like, I think they went to Z, believe it or not. Then they said, oh, it's not a vitamin. They started taking them out. That's why they're named A, B, C, D, E, F. Uh-oh, no F. F's are really fatty acids. On my vitamin document, it'll talk about that. So they took out F, G, used to be G, I think it's G or H used to be vitamin. Took out G, H, I, J, K, they left it in. But then they realized, oh my gosh, there's a whole bunch of types of vitamin K. There's actually 5 types, K1 through 5. But they don't tell you that. But there's no letters between K and L, so they have K1, K2, K3. Same thing with D. There's no letters between D and E, so there's 5 forms of D. D1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But D3 is actually the main one. That's why you get this weird naming of vitamins. B is the same way. No letters between B and C, but they discovered a whole bunch more B vitamins. So they went B1, 2, 3, all the way up to 20 something, maybe 30 something, number irrelevant. That's why you have B1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 12. It's like, wow, they just arbitrarily took out ones. No, that's because they named them incorrectly. Okay, guys, so I'm going to wrap the meeting up. There'll be a recording of this meeting tomorrow, so if you need to go over certain details of it or whatever, I'm going to make sure I make the bonus quiz, change a couple of errors. I'm going to do that a little bit, but take advantage of that. Get some bonus points, earn some bonus points. So the last code is 453. That's 453. So when I end this meeting, take the little quiz associated with this Zoom meeting number 2. It should give you your 15 points. I think it'll do it by percentages. I think it'll say 100%. So 453 is the last code. So I'll go over all 3. I shouldn't do this because people watching the recording can just watch the end and get it. But they don't know that. First code was 356. Second code was 362. Third code is 453. So our next Zoom meeting is not until after the first chapter test. So work your study guides. That way you're in good shape as far as the test goes. So you can unmute your mics, and for the last few minutes here, does anybody have any question on anything? Anybody, just blurt it out. You can ask me any question you want. If I don't
Yes.
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 Go ahead. Sure.
I asked about the water memory message. Where can I send you a message?
Does it say message in it when you take it? Yeah.
The water memory.
Yeah, it should say, this is an important question. So guys, I'm going to do a little screen share real quick here. To show you this, because this is 50 bonus points. This makes a huge difference in your grade. So, because that quiz is open. So let's do a little screen share. I don't know which class I'm in. 03. So if you go to modules, let's go to modules. See, everything is in modules. This is loading here. Hold on a second. It's kind of slow. I'm going to scroll all the way down because there's 18 weeks. Seems like a lot, but there are. This module 21 has the bonus water memory. This is fascinating stuff on water, which we haven't even touched on. Here's the video. You can click that and watch the video. Once you watch the video, you take this little 10 question quiz. Each question is worth 5 points. Say you only got 5 of the 10 right, you would still get 25 points. But once you watch the video, see, not this, but there's the video right here. It's fascinating. It's not boring, I promise you. Well, anyway, you can watch the video. I'm going to go back to the modules, and it was this one. So once you watch it, you can watch it a couple times if you want. Take a few notes. This says it's worth 0.1 points. It's worth more than that. Don't worry about that. Water memory quiz. So I'm going to preview it. It's actually worth 50 points. It explains how it's done here. And these are the questions. There's 10, and they're true-false questions. You could just randomly guess and get half of them. If you watch a video, there's no reason not to get more. And once you finish, you can only do this quiz one time. You submit the quiz, and then when I go to grades under water memory, it'll show your grade, like, so you got 8 of them right. It'll say like 0.8 or 0.08. I'll change that to 40. Actually, what I said right here, I'll change it to 40 out of 50, and you'll notice your grade will go up instantly. But that's how you access this. There's 2 of these. There's one called the movie Alive, which is forced fasting, which is another one that is available. That's worth 10 points, but every little bit helps too. Okay, does everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay, guys, I'm going to end the meeting.
Yeah, I have a question, please.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Okay, the question is the water memory video that you said we can watch now, is it open? Because most of
Oh yeah, it's open because the modules are locked on the, like, what you have to do per week, but all those modules beyond module 18 are open. They're open the whole time. The bonus water memory, the movie Alive, which is about extreme fasting, and there's just some fun stuff at the end there. Those are all open. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys, take the little quiz, and I'll see you in 2 or 3 weeks when our next meeting is. Okay.
Okay. Good night, sir.
Good night.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye for now.